This can be really effective for a long period of time. Again, as long as you're doing a couple of things, right? We're choosing exercises that use all the muscles that we want. We are also making sure we are training hard enough. So, hey guys, Coach Dan here. In today's video, we are going to kick off a at-home workout series. So at-home workouts have many different functions. You know, as far as the pandemic goes, at-home workouts was all I could do. I would smash it out in the garage, be screaming out. People down the street were making complaints due to, they thought someone was dying in the garage. But also from a personal standpoint, we've recently had a kid. So if you're in that boat, sometimes at-home sessions are the way to go when they're napping or whatever it might be, or you can't get to the gym or no creche. So at-home workouts have a lot of utility. Now, there is some limitations to at-home workouts, but we can get by those limitations with a few different things. So limitation, or the main limitation that I see, is the lack of equipment that you potentially have. Maybe you have a massive garage gym or a massive shed gym and you have all you need, but often it's just a one or two pieces of equipment. So with that in mind, we have to be very clever about our exercise selection. Also, the other thing that's really important, and which is again the crux of most weight training, is effort needs to be there. So whether you use dumbbells, barbells, machines, whatever, body weight, whatever it might be, if you get to the end of the set and you have not worked very hard, you're not going to get a lot from it. So today we're going to start with dumbbells. I've had adjustable dumbbells since I was a wee little laddie, and they have lasted all that time, and they adjust, and that's really cool. So today we're going to go through a full body dumbbell workout. So ticking off each muscle group of our body. And again, we're choosing good exercises because we only have dumbbells. We want to be clever about those exercise selections. Then when we get our hands on those dumbbells, we need to make sure we try hard, right? All right, let's go to exercise number 1. Grandma did them, grandpa did them, and we're going to do them today. No, but seriously, squats are an excellent at-home exercise because they don't usually require too much equipment or setup. All we're going to be using is a dumbbell. Now, potentially you are someone who is at body weight level of squats, and that's cool. Potentially you are someone who a full rep body weight squat is also too difficult, and that's completely cool. So we'll have variations and ones we can do for everyone. So essentially when we go to squat, everyone's structure is a little bit different, but we're going to set our feet shoulder width-ish apart, toes slightly pointing out. That's the usual stance, but again, you'll find ways to suit yourself a little bit better. So ultimately what we want to do is we want to make sure we're training our legs or our quads and our glutes effectively as possible. So what we want to then get from this exercise is lots of knee flexion and lots of hip flexion, meaning quads and glutes. So I'm going to start with body weight, and then I'll show you how we use it with a dumbbell. So simply sitting back and down like you're going onto a chair, knees following along the lines of the toe or the direction of your toes, so they're not buckling in, can be a common fault with this one. Sit down as low as your flexibility and mobility allows, and then we're coming up. Now, tempo of exercise will apply to all exercises today, which will be 2 seconds-ish on the way down, or at least just under control. Dead stop at the bottom, or maybe just say half-second pause, and then coming up relatively explosively. So maybe you'll do a couple warm-up reps at that, then we incorporate the dumbbell. Now, again, if body weight's hard enough for you, you start with body weight, you do a couple sets with that, you build up your strength, and then we can head to the dumbbell. Now, when we get our hands on the dumbbell, we call this like a goblet squat, or any kind of squat you want to call it, but a goblet squat's what I've always known it as. It's just a matter of holding the dumbbell in a position that feels comfy. So I usually like to sit in the palm of my hands like such. Same stance, sitting down nice and low, driving up from there. Now, if you're new to squats or any kind of leg training, you'll find that lower body gets really sore really quickly. So if you haven't done any training, you might start with, say, 2 sets of this. Give yourself a couple of days, wait for your legs to recover, and then you can kind of start again. So 2 to 3 sets. For the goblet squat, we might do 10 to 15 reps. One of the challenges with the goblet squat is actually getting it into position. So if the weight is too heavy, we'll have to wrestle a dumbbell into position, and that will make it such that it wastes a lot of energy. So if we want to do 6 reps with this, we have to have such a heavy dumbbell that it's too hard to get into position. So 10 to 15 reps. If you're just starting out, 2 sets. If you've got a bit more experience, you can do 3 or 4 sets, right? Now, one of the regressions that you might use in case you are not able to do a body weight one is essentially using something like a box, or whatever you might call this, a bench we've got here. So you'll stand in front of the bench, same kind of setup, sitting back and down, tapping your butt to the bench like you're sitting down, and then coming up from there. All the other same cues apply. We're controlling the way down, making our legs work hard. We are keeping our knees in line with our toes, not allowing our knees to buckle in. Once we can progress through those, you can then go to body weight. Once you go to body weight, then you can go to the dumbbell. So same things from the introduction to keep in mind is that intensity has to be hard enough. So if you're doing it, if you're new to it, you might introduce it as like, oh yeah, I'm working at a 7 or 8 out of 10. But as you get better and better, you're gonna have to make the difficulty higher. We can do that by adding weight and or reps or changing some of the other variables. All right, that's the goblet squat. See you at the next exercise. Now my camera person just let me know that you may not have adjustable dumbbells, you may have standard dumbbells. So these dumbbells are pretty cool in the sense that I can just adjust weight down. It means in one set of dumbbells, I have multiple weights. You might have to get a couple of different weighted dumbbells, but these are also not terribly priced. Like these might be from 20 years ago or something like that, my first sort of entry into weight training. So you can still get these for a couple $100-ish, but again, you might just get some standard dumbbells, rubber dumbbells of different weights that you think might be appropriate for you. All right, next up, we are going to go dumbbell shoulder press. We can do this seated. Preferentially, if you have some kind of seat, I would use it, but if you don't, sweet. We're gonna take the dumbbells, it's a shoulder press. So I'll step away, I'm gonna pop them up to shoulder height, and then I'm simply gonna press past my ears. So same idea, we're controlling the way down. I like to just give myself an end point, which is touching the dumbbell to the top of my shoulder, and then I'll press up straight past my ears. Depending on what feels comfortable to you, you can change hand position. So we can go something like a neutral grip, we can go a standing kind of grip or somewhere in between. And essentially we're trying to train the shoulders. The triceps will work here as well, and maybe even a little bit of the top of the chest. So as far as reps and sets goes, sets for this, again, compared to something like a lower body exercise like a squat, you could probably get away with doing immediately starting with a little bit more because you're not going to get a sore usually. So if I did 2 sets for the squats, 10 to 15 reps, I think a pretty similar rep range here is going to be appropriate as well. Again, same idea. The fact that I have to get the dumbbells into position means that if I go too heavy on the weight, I might be wasting a lot of energy getting it to here. So we can essentially go to a slightly higher rep range with a slightly lower weight as long as we keep working hard, right? So if you do 6 or 8 reps or 10 or 12 reps, they can both be comparable as long as you challenge yourself at a high enough level. So keep that in mind. We're gonna go moderate rep range on these, 10 to 15-ish, 3 sets, and that should really smash those shoulders. All right, let's move on. All right, next up, dumbbell stiff-legged deadlift. Now this is gonna train the hamstrings, glutes. A good thing about deadlift variations is that your arms have to hold on, your core works. There's so much going into one exercise, and that's pretty sweet and very efficient. So if you've got one exercise to do, you can use lots of muscles. That saves you some time, plus it's pretty fun, this one. So we're gonna make it lean slightly more towards the hamstrings, and I'll show you how we do that. But you can make your glutes work hard here, you can make your back work hard, you can make everything work really hard with a deadlift variation. So I've got the dumbbells set on a bench here, but again, you could set them on the ground. We're gonna take dumbbells from that bench, a couple of steps away. Feet about hip width apart, usually here works pretty well. And I'm first gonna initiate by pushing my butt back until I reach basically as far as my hamstrings can stretch. So if you start to keep going, or if I start to keep going from here, I'll start to round my back, and then potentially there's more injury risk at that. So essentially all we're doing is pushing our butt back until we have that real deep stretch in the hamstrings, and then we come up, squeeze your butt, and then revisit. Big stretch, come up, squeeze the butt, and repeat. So if I wanted to make this lean slightly more towards the glutes, I could potentially bend my knees a little bit more, take the dumbbells to the side, and instead of being so stiff in the leg, I'll bend my knee that little bit more, which will allow my hamstrings to chill out a little bit and take that more to glutes, and also quads will then get to increase. So we get a bit of overall there, right? So more knee flexion for glutes, less knee flexion for hamstrings. Now let's talk sets and reps for that one. Same again, potentially this exercise can be really damaging. So if you're new to it, you might start off with 2 sets. If you've been doing it for a while, sure, you can go to 3 or 4. Rep range, I would lean towards something that's a little bit lower. So something in that 5 to 10 rep range if you have the weight. So again, if we keep linking back, we need to make sure we're training hard enough when it comes to weight training. So if you go 12 reps and it's really hard, that's good. If you go 8 reps and that's really hard, that's equally as good. So if we want to go under 10 on the rep range, the weight has to go up. If you don't have the weight, you have no choice then to go to a high rep range to make it equally tough. That's the dumbbell stiff-legged deadlift. Let's keep it going. Another classic from the archives, single arm dumbbell row. So now we're thinking about training the back musculature along with the arms. So if we think about where we've been so far, we've done a goblet squat, quads, glutes, main work is there. We've done a shoulder press, shoulders, triceps, main work is there. We've done our stiff-legged deadlift, hamstring, glutes. Now we're moving on to something that's more back dominant, but also we'll get the bicep involved, you'll get the rear deltoid. So again, we're getting lots of bang for our buck here. So the single arm dumbbell row, it's a classic. It's been around for ever. It's a really good exercise. It continues to be a good exercise regardless of all the machines out there. You can still get a lot done with this exercise. So for this, I usually like to have some kind of bench or setup, but that could be a wall. It could be a bench, it could be something else to lean on, but essentially that leaning on something is going to give us some form of stability. So we've got a bench here, so I'll place an arm on the bench. The arm that I'm going to work with, I'm going to push my back leg out of the way, so that gives me room to do this motion because I'm going to be in here doing this exercise right now. I'll then grab the dumbbell. I'll grab the dumbbell, bring it down so it's hanging down directly underneath my shoulder, pulling down with gravity, and then I'm going to pull it up towards my hip. So some common issues you might see or faults you might see with this exercise, people who pull this up towards their face. This just becomes essentially a glorified dumbbell curl. We don't want it to be about that. So the motion that we want on this is taking my arm and pulling it back. Now, if you ignore the bottom part of my arm, this what do you call this? A forearm and hand. It's about moving this back around towards my spine. That's the job of the muscles we're trying to train here, right? So we're driving our arm back, and that usually kind of lands when the dumbbell is right by that hip in that kind of position there. Let it all stretch out. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Oh, it doesn't get too much better than that. Now, if we wanted to make this, a slightly different exercise, or if you've been doing this one for a while and you want to mix it up, you're getting a bit over or whatever it might be, we could take our arm or elbow and kind of face it out to the side. And now suddenly we've almost got a different emphasis. So same muscle group will also help, but because my elbow is now going out to the side, I'll start to incorporate more of my rear delt, more of my trap, and all this kind of stuff. That's the single arm dumbbell row. Let's go. Here we go. So next up, we've got a dumbbell lateral raise. So if you want to fly away, you need the dumbbell lateral. No, I'm just kidding. So if we think about the shoulder press, what we had done initially, because that works for shoulders as well, it's probably working more of the front part of your shoulder or the anterior delt. What doesn't get a lot of love in that, it'll get a little love, but not a lot of love, is the lateral delt or the side part of the shoulder. So with that in mind, we now want to take our arms out to the side to make sure we tick that box and train the lateral part of the deltoid as well. So as always, we've got the dumbbells ready set on the bench. I'll take them away from the bench so I have some space. Now, there is a couple of different ways you can do this. So some people might like it where they simply go from right by the sides, right by the hips, raising out, controlling the way down, raising out, controlling the way down. Some people might also like it where they're touching the dumbbells together at the bottom, raising out from there, control the way down, raising out from there, control the way down. Now, both are fine. You can choose essentially what feels more comfortable to you. Both are good. Some of the other considerations to make is the path of your arm. So if you look at me from side on, I can go anywhere from directly out to the side, even as I start to go all the way into this position, probably around about 45 degrees is where you would cap that. Anything that we start to then come in towards the front then becomes the anterior deltoid again. So if I'm doing my lateral raise, I can go out to the side, I can go slightly out in front, they're all good, whatever you feel best with. Let's talk reps and sets. Same again as shoulder press and some of the other upper body movements. You shouldn't get too sore from this. So you can immediately start at say 3 sets. I like this on a moderate to high rep range. So nothing under 10. You're fine with really heavy weights on movements like this. You'll start to swing into it or it just won't feel very good on your joints. So somewhere between 10 to 20 reps, making sure you're training hard, right? It's got to be hard. It's got to hurt this one, right? So out to the side, 10 to 20 reps, 3 sets. That'll get your shoulders capped off. Bonus round. Now, up until now, we've pretty much ticked all the muscles off in the body, which is great. And that's probably what you want with a full body workout. So full body workout, you could do 2 or 3 times a week, even once per week, but I'd probably aim to get at least 2 or 3. You could take 48 hours gap in between to get your recovery in, and you'd be good to go. And you train hard and you try to progress and you're golden, right? If you want to then start to split it up or go to 4 or 5 days, we need to mix it up a little bit like that. But our exercise selection up to until now has been good. If we just want to do a little bit more, we're going to go with some of the smaller muscle groups and isolate things such as calves and abs, right? Now calves, again, we're just going to do a standard calf raise off of some sort of platform. So this could be a step, if you've got a step in your house, or I've got a weight plate here, any kind of lip. Now, if I was to try and do this on the ground, you'll note that I just run into the ground, not allowing a large range of motion, and that might be a bad thing. So you'll need balance, because otherwise you'll be worrying about balance the whole time. You'll place half your foot on your step of choice, either 1 or 2 feet. You could do this 1 foot as well, that would be pretty sweet. And then we're gonna raise up onto the toes. Heels go down towards the ground, they tap, and then we raise up onto the toes. Now, when I want to weight these, easy peasy, I take one of our trusty dumbbells here, and I do exactly the same thing. So there's miles and miles of progression here, which you can go on forever, again, as long as you have a heavy enough dumbbell. So that is bonus number 1. Bonus number 2 is going to be a crunch or a sit-up, no equipment required. So again, you just need some sort of platform. Now, the important thing to note about crunches or sit-ups or anything of this nature is actually how we execute the movement. So people will just do sit-ups where they just kind of throw themselves into it. They're not thinking about anything. They're just kind of getting up, getting down, that's it. Now, if we want to make sure we train our abs effectively, we want to think about the job of the abs, right? Now, I've got this essentially the bottom of my sternum and the top of my pelvis. And essentially the abs are going to pull those 2 points towards one another. So I'm thinking about pulling this point to this point, which is that kind of motion there. So you'll see if my fingers are going closer towards one another, opening up, closer towards one another, opening up. And that means I'm going to be training my rectus abdominis or my abdominal muscles as effectively as I can. What I would call potentially less effective way to do this would just be to flex with your hips and essentially just kind of get into those kind of positions there. Now, again, will your abs work there? Almost certainly. But if we want it to be very efficient and effective with what we do, those are the 2 points we're trying to drive towards one another. Bottom of the sternum, top of the pelvis, crunch, bring them together, crunch, bring them together, and that's that. So with these two, again, sets and reps could be anywhere from 10 to 20. An issue with the crunch is weighting, but you could weight it with a dumbbell, but essentially maybe you'll be going to a higher rep range there, even 20 or 30 as long as it's hard. The calf raise, again, 10 to 20, you got the dumbbells there to add weight to make it harder. 3 sets, you could go from this one to this one, back to this one, and kind of go from one to the other as what we call a superset to save yourself some time at the end of the workout. Those are calves and abs ticked off. All right, that caps off the workout, guys. So nothing to it. All straightforward exercise selection there, but what we're making sure that we're doing is we're using all of the muscles in our muscle groups. All the muscles in our muscle groups, all the muscles that we have in the one workout. That's essentially how full body workouts will go. So what that means is I can train the whole body in one session, I can wait a couple of days, and then I can do it again. Now, workout splits or program splits or muscle splits would be if I train lower body and upper body and stuff like that. That can then be incorporated when you start training maybe 4 or 5 times a week if you'd like. But this can be really effective for a long period of time. Again, as long as you're doing a couple of things, right? We're choosing exercises that use all the muscles that we want. We are also making sure we are training hard enough. So I can't stress that enough. If you come and you're training it at home or you're training at the gym and you kind of get to the end of the set and you're really like chill and you can just have a chat, or you know what I do see sometimes, people reading books while doing a leg extension. Unbelievable. Like, that's the most painful thing in the world. Like, how are you doing a leg extension and reading a book? It's probably because it's not very difficult for them. And that is one of the things about weight training. This is not endurance training. We're not going for a walk. It needs to be hard. It's only going to last 30 seconds to a minute. So choose exercises that use all of your muscles in your body, like we've done here today. And then once we have that, make sure we are trying hard enough. Reps, sets, you can kind of work that out for yourself over time. If you're going to train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you do 2 sets of something and you're unbearably sore on Wednesday from Monday's session, then that's probably too much. You can start with 1, and then once you can recover well, then you can go to 2, right? So that's important to note. None of this is forced, and there is no cookie cutter. We essentially have to work a little bit out for ourselves. Now remember, as always, it's about progress over perfection. Coach Dan, signing off.